All right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. My name is Aaron. In this video today, I'm going to play you this clip. I'm just going to play you a part of it. This is from an interview very recently given by the Ripple CTO, David Schwartzman. So if you hold XRP, you're going to want to see this. If you're thinking about buying XRP, you're going to want to hear this. If you're in the XRP army in any regard, in any way, this video is definitely for you. And also, this is a follow-up video to one that I uploaded a few days ago. Why XRP will make you rich but will ultimately fail. Just to be clear, I want to say this right up front. We're going to go into this with a clean slate. I want to be fair and balanced to the XRP community, but also obviously we're still going to maintain my own credibility. I'm still going to keep things 100% real, but I'm not out to get anybody, guys. And that's actually the reason I'm going to show you this video. I want you to get the information right from the Ripple CTO's mouth. Just like always, guys, use our channel as a starting off point and do your own research. I'm not the end-all be-all. And if you appreciate that, if you want to support a channel like this, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, like the video. This video, it's going to be good for both the XRP army as well as just everybody else in the cryptocurrency space. Before I play you the clip, actually, I do want to talk for a minute regarding the response that I received after posting this first video. So first of all, something that you should know about me is I love to hear different opinions other than my own. I love to have my own personal worldview challenged. And even with Bitcoin, like if you've been subscribed to us for a while, you know most of my portfolio is Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin, but also I like to hear arguments against Bitcoin. I like to hear arguments as to why Bitcoin can fail. On the other hand, and the reason I say this, I can't say the same thing for most of the XRP army, because after I posted this, I mean, never in my life have I had my opinion met with such hate and vitriol like I did the other day when I posted this. I mean, it's as if XRP is above questioning, right? Why XRP can make you rich but will ultimately fail, just my opinion. So if you watch this video, despite the fact I agree with you, XRP army, XRP can make you rich. Despite the fact I had a warning right in the title, only my opinion. Despite the fact that I regularly make it known, I'm not an expert, I'm not giving out financial advice. Despite all of this, after I uploaded this video, I was lambasted, I was crucified, I was downvoted into oblivion, and this was all done by the tribal community, which is the XRP army. And not all of them, but a lot of them. Listen, guys, I'm under no delusion with Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin can fail. I'm under no delusion with any of these altcoins. I know that they all can fail. I get that. I think the vast majority of the XRP army is under a massive delusion that XRP cannot fail. And if you say something critical, if you question XRP in any way, they hate it. It's as if you're hurting the price. Which, again, it's ridiculous. If there's one coin that doesn't need the grassroots, the populace, the retail movement to increase its price, I think that coin is XRP, because XRP is targeting the banks. It's for enterprise use, meaning for the price to increase, adoption will happen with the banks, obviously, and it really shouldn't matter in the slightest whether or not the general public buys in. I mean, really, if XRP succeeds, general public probably won't even know they're using it in a lot of cases. Anyways, without further ado, I want you to hear directly from David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple. Incredibly smart guy. I invite you to listen to the whole 25-minute interview like I did. The link is in the description. Listen to it. It's great. I'm going to share with you what I felt is one of the most pertinent clips. And let me just give you my conclusion right off the bat. To answer the question, was I wrong about XRP? I don't think so. But you know what? We don't really know yet because there's a lot of uncertainty. Was I wrong to question XRP? Of course not. Every tough question that I brought up in this video is brought up in this video that I'm about to show you. And guess what? David admits those challenges. So although the CTO is bullish on the future of Ripple, he's the first to admit, among other things, that there is a real regulatory challenge getting banks to sign up and use XRP. He says banks are very slow to adopt XRP because of the regulatory uncertainty. Here, I'm gonna let him tell you. So first, let him explain the challenges of getting banks to adopt digital assets in general. And then I like the host because he gets him to talk specifically about the XRP token with the banks. So listen very carefully to his words throughout this. It's not all moons and Lambos, guys. It's not all moons and Lambos.
Yeah, this has been the narrative for a few years because I've talked to your CEO, Brad, fairly often, and he's made the case this is a way for banks to save money, use XRP as kind of a bridge currency. But I got to say, it doesn't seem to be happening. It seems every year this is kind of the promise, but we're not seeing a lot of adoption. What's going on there?
I would agree that adoption of digital assets has been a little slower, or I mean, you could see it as being incredibly quick or incredibly slow, depending on what time frame you think is reasonable. I would say revolutionizing international finance is not something that you would expect to happen overnight, but it is a multi-step process. And I think the first problem that we encountered, I mean, we kind of thought that we could take a direct line to settling with a digital asset, and I think a lot of people thought that, well, now we have digital assets, let's just use them for payments, and that'll be that. Part of the problem is that the payment systems are just not capable of supporting instantaneous settlement. So if you think about a payment system like SWIFT, where you just kind of push a payment message out, and you don't necessarily know the entire path, and you don't know the fees until later, you don't even know if the destination account even exists until sometime later when the payment is actually processed by the destination institution. There's no way that you could build instantaneous settlement into a system like that. So we kind of found ourselves in this situation where if we wanted institutions to settle their international payments with a digital asset, we first had to rebuild the payment messaging, sort of the plumbing. And we discovered something interesting on the way. What we discovered was that the existing plumbing was so bad, I mean, it dates back to batch computing days, that just improving that messaging was a product. That was something that banks and non-bank financial institutions would be interested in. And so we focused on building a top-notch payment network that can settle with a digital asset. And I think it's fair to say that we haven't yet proven that we can actually settle with a digital asset. We're just making that transition from building a payment network that can settle with a digital asset to figuring out where you really want to settle with a digital asset and making that settlement happen.
That's, if I can interrupt a second, that's my understanding. You built xCurrent, right, as a messaging product?
Correct.
And a lot of people seem to think it's superior to Swift. And you almost have this successful enterprise software business on your hands. And good for you, but it seems Ripple wants to do something more, which is to encourage the users of this to also wrap some XRPs into the transactions. But it sort of seems like you're shoehorning something in there that a lot of banks are like, wait a minute, we don't need this. We're just good with the messaging thing. So make the case for us why you need XRP in this.
I would just start out by saying I think that is a fair point. I think we do have a struggle on our hands to convince particularly banks, because banks are extremely conservative, they're very slow moving. What we've discovered is that non-bank financial institutions, payment companies are much, much more aggressive, and they're much more interested in things that can save them time and money and cost. And so we built the XRapid product as a way to kind of solve that problem. And it was adapted to the real-life situation that we were facing. We kind of had this idea that institutions would hold XRP or a digital asset, they'd make their payments with a digital asset, or regional hubs would settle with a digital asset. And for a variety of reasons, the world wasn't quite ready for that, including regulatory issues, lack of liquidity, immature ecosystem around digital assets. And so we couldn't aim directly for sort of the end state that we wanted. We had to come up with a more practical plan. XRapid is aimed at two things. So one of them is sort of remittance-type international flows, where cost is very high, and the volatility actually favors a digital asset, which is kind of bizarre. Usually people say the problem with digital assets is they have such volatility. But here, if you think about trying to pre-fund Mexican pesos on a Thursday to make payments on a Monday, that's a lot of volatility in Mexican pesos. Whereas if you can use XRP, which can move across the planet in just a couple of seconds, the volatility is actually less. Even though XRP is inherently more volatile, you're only holding it for the minute or two it takes to complete the transaction. And I think the other thing that XRapid handles is you might have a bank that doesn't want to touch a digital asset. They're like, we can't have XRP on our books, we can't buy it, we can't sell it, it's just too much of a regulatory challenge for us. But let's say they want to make a payment in Mexico, and they don't want to have to pre-fund, and they don't want to have to get confirmation 3 days later. What they can do is they can have an XRapid customer that probably won't be a bank. It'll be a payment company or some other type of institution that uses a digital asset to buy the Mexican pesos as an internal treasury function and then offers those Mexican pesos to the bank. So it's a workaround to the limitations that we found that we think is adapted to the situation that we're in today.
Really great interview. You can see that the host asks the CTO the tough questions. We don't have time to go through all the questions.
Let's switch to stablecoins. Last week, a new kind of consortium of banks said, hey, we're rolling out this new stablecoin. Does that kind of freeze you guys out? Or what do you think of Facebook's coin? So I'll ask you quickly, too, about the price of XRP. Sort of surprised. It used to be very volatile. It used to, go from 1 cent to $4 and everywhere. But last year, it seems to have really stabilized. What's behind that? Is there sort of some hidden hand keeping that price in a narrow band? Or?
He asked the same questions that I was asking in the original video, plus more. And the great thing is the CTO is able to answer the tough questions directly and fully, so respect to David Schwartzman as well. But I guess the point is it's not all moons and Lambos, because you heard him say, yes, I think we do have a struggle on our hands to convince banks. Banks are conservative. Banks are slow moving. He says banks don't want to touch digital assets because of the regulatory challenges. He said all of this. He said all of this. And yet, himself and his team, they're working hard every single day to try and make the XRP, trying to make the Ripple revolution happen. So if you hold XRP, if you're thinking about buying XRP, I really recommend this whole video. The host does an incredible job of asking the critical questions. The CTO does an excellent job of answering those questions. The response that I got from the XRP army in this original video did not make me think very highly of the XRP community. Now, the thoughtful responses that the CTO gave did make me think highly of XRP. So there's that. I mean, my overall opinion of XRP is the same. Yes, I think XRP can make you rich. That being said, I think it's got a tough road ahead. But I'm rooting for it. We'll see what happens. If one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And we're all trying to build that crypto world together. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you got value in this video, give it a like. If you'd like to join the Altcoin Daily army, subscribe to the channel. Either way, see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be a great year.